When I first got into houseplants, I didn't understand what the hype was all about when it came to terracotta pots. I mean, these people really talked all about it and I didn't get it. So in this video, we're gonna go over all things terracotta and especially what kind of plants work the best inside of these pots. Let's go. What's going on, my plant people? I am the ADHD gardener, where I use gardening, houseplants, and humor as a form of mental health. And it's all about terracotta today. What I like the best about them is that they have that natural look, right? That natural earthy look, like it came straight from the ground. Well, essentially, that's kind of what it is. Terracotta is actually made out of 100% clay. And after they mold it, then they bake it, and then you have your finished product. And it is fantastic. When I said that I didn't really understand the whole concept of a terracotta pot, that's actually true. I mean, I knew it was made out of clay. However, I just didn't know how beneficial it could be for certain plants. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. Great, Jack, now what? It's made out of clay. What's so good about it? First, I'm gonna get into the reasons why I didn't understand it in the beginning, and that would further explain as to what plants would work best in that pot. So when I first started using them, I've noticed that all of my plants were drying out way too fast. Way too fast. Let's say your average spider plant you would water like once a week. In these kind of terracotta pots, you're watering them like twice a week, 3 times a week. So in a nutshell, I noticed that I had to water way more frequently when it came to terracotta pots. The second thing I've noticed when I was first figuring out this terracotta pot is that any plant that I put in here, it was actually dying. Any plant I put in this sucker, dead. Dying leaves, and I'm like, yo, what in the world was the problem? Any plant I put in this sucker needed more watering than I was used to. I was used to only watering maybe once a week, and this pot, any plant that you put in this, it was going to need way much more watering than that. Those 2 reasons alone completely turned me off to terracotta. Don't worry, I got you. I'm gonna tell you what my light bulb moment was so we can figure out what plant will go better in this one and everything will work out a lot better in the end, right? Because that's the whole point. Those 2 reasons as to why I hated them in the beginning of my houseplant journey was because I did not understand the connection between terracotta and certain plants. And that's what we're gonna get into. Being that terracotta is made out of clay, this is actually porous, which means that water can freely get absorbed or released out of these clay pots. And that was the key to my problems in the beginning of the houseplant journey, because my plants kept dying because I needed to keep watering them so much and I didn't understand why. But now we know why. It's because a lot of the water that I was giving my plants was actually being sucked up by the pot. Which was not cool depending on the plant that you put in it. Only after multiple plant deaths of my succulents, I figured out that, you know what, plastic containers for succulents and cacti was not doing me any good. I needed to think about something else because these plastics were freaking killing my plants. Knowing that I'm heavy-handed when it comes to watering, I would always overwater my cacti and my succulents and then they would die every single time. I noticed that those plastic containers, I was not having good enough drainage. I mean, I did have perlite, I did have cactus mix, but it did not matter. I said, screw this. I'm gonna go hunt down a terracotta pot. I'm gonna put my succulent inside of this and I'm gonna see if I can save or maintain what little left of the succulent I have. And here it is. It's my 1-string succulent. This actually worked out because I noticed when I was watering way too much that the water would get sucked out of the soil and into the terracotta pot, thus saving my succulents. Let's see how terracotta works when it comes to water, right? So you're gonna have your pot or your terracotta is gonna be exposed to water. What's gonna happen is that the terracotta is gonna soak up a lot of that water from its basin or whatever it is. After that, the soil is going to suck up the moisture from the terracotta. From there, the roots will suck up the water that it got from the soil, that it got from the terracotta, that it got from the basin that you were collecting the water in. Isn't that crazy? It just gets sucked up and then it gets transferred from one place to another, and thus saving your succulents. My problem was I was watering too much, and on top of that, I was watering from the top of my succulents. Now, I know that watering from the top does not work for me when it comes to succulents. I've heard other people say it works, but for me, it does not. And I managed to kill a lot of succulents for this very same reason. Oh, you want evidence of me killing succulents because I had overwatered them too much? Bam! There you go. Bam! How about this one? Let's not forget this one. All of these succulents I have saved because I took it out of its plastic pot and I put them into terracotta. Let's say you're watering your succulent from the top, right? Boop, just like this. Next thing you know, your plant is dying. The plant is still alive. You can see that it still has some life to it, but a good portion of that sucker has died. Now, had I not had this plant in a terracotta pot, then the whole entire plant would have died because it would have been sitting in that water, right? But that did not happen in this case because the remaining water got sucked up in the terracotta pot and then saving the succulent. I know I've been screwing up on the whole water thing, but I finally got it right with these terracotta pots through butt chugging. Now, if you don't know what butt chugging is, which is basically watering from the bottom, I actually did a video on that. I'm gonna leave it right up here and down below so you can go check out what exactly is all about butt chugging or watering from the bottom. Once you know about that butt chugging, I found that watering from the bottom actually works the best for the terracotta because that's how the water gets soaked up from the bottom into the terracotta, then into the soil, then into the roots. Remember, I half killed it because I watered it from the top, and then luckily it did not completely die because the terracotta came through clutch and then soaked up the remaining water in there. I have been since then watering from the bottom, and that's how I managed to save this one little leaf stem. I no longer water from the top. I let it soak up from the bottom. It's not only just cacti and succulents. You can actually put plants that are actually partial succulents in there too. I actually have a Hoya Hindu rope right here that was in a plastic container that I was watering from the top, and I watered it too much, and then a good majority of it, about 80% of it, died. So I said, screw this, I'm gonna put it in a terracotta pot and see if I can freaking save it. And bam, I managed to save it. I do not water from the top anymore. I only do it from the bottom. I know that sounds so jacked up. I know. God, why is it that I find all these things perverted? So in my personal opinion, terracotta works fantastic for succulents, cacti, semi-succulents, and anything that you do not want overwatered or do not want wet feet on. But Jackie, terracotta pots are the only pots I have. Can I still use it? If there's any plants that you are going to avoid putting into your terracotta pots, are actually water-loving plants. Trust me, you do not want to put a water-loving plant in a terracotta pot. You just don't want to do it. Why? Because if your water-loving plant is looking for water, that terracotta pot is going to steal a lot of that water. A lot of palm tree plants are actually water-loving, so please do not put your palm tree plants inside of terracotta. God, that'd be such a bad idea. Well, technically, yeah, you can. I mean, it is a pot. You can still put a plant in it. However, that's where the mindfulness is going to come in. That's where the paying attention is. Damn that mindfulness. I know. But mindfulness is key when it comes to horticultural therapy. So that's what we're going to be practicing if you're going to put a regular plant inside of a terracotta pot. Remember, they dry up very fast. Very fast. So if you're going to put a plant in here that likes a lot of water, you gotta be mindful. You gotta pay attention because if not, your plant will go yellow, crispy, and then start to die. It's still possible, but you really gotta pay attention. And I mean really gotta pay attention. Can I emphasize really pay attention? Now what happens with over time of that terracotta soaking up all that water, it actually starts to develop a patina. The color starts to change on the outside of it. And actually sometimes you even get mineral chunks calcifying right on top of the terracotta. It happens, it's normal, it's not gonna hurt your plants, it just changes the look and the texture of the terracotta. Being that this does not hurt your plant, you have an option whether or not you wanna remove it because some people just don't like the way it looks. I personally like the way it looks because again, I'm always about natural. I like natural elements, I like the way it naturally just kind of did its thing. So I'm gonna keep it, but you can actually brush it off, you can wipe it off, you know, do that if you want to, if you don't like the look of it. But I personally like the color and I like the texture. Give it a little more character and of course emphasizes the natural look. If you're clumsy or you have maybe, you know, your fine motor skills and your hands are not the best and you have a tendency of dropping stuff, then you gotta watch out for terracotta because whoa, if you drop it, you is screwed. You are not getting that pot back. It is gonna break into a bunch of pieces. So you gotta be very, very careful. As you see here on this plant, I actually have a major crack on this terracotta. So I am really being careful, really being mindful as to how much and how often I pick up this pot. Eventually this will break if I continue to move it around a lot, but it can survive a little while. I really hope you got some good information all about terracotta pots and when is the right time to be using them. And if you did enjoy this video and you want to show me some love, then don't forget to smash that like button. I really appreciate it. Also, if you haven't already, then consider subscribing. I drop a video every week and then some in between. Don't forget the notification bell because without that, you won't know I'm dropping a video. And then last but not least, I am on Facebook and Instagram. You can drop me a message. I post some funny memes, DIY projects, and a little bit on the personal side. And as usual, I want you to grow your happiness one plant at a time, one day at a time. And until the next episode, you guys, peace and love.